What is up, guys? So I've got my Cyber Dragon deck profile for you here today. This deck is so much better than I thought it was, and I think especially for this format, this is probably one of the strongest going second decks. I have got the actual strongest one, and I'm still deciding whether or not to release it. We'll see if I decide to, just because I am using it in a tournament. But just as a hint, it does have something to do with Cyber Dragon. If you can guess it, let me know in the comments. And I don't know, if someone guesses it, I might just decide to release it early. But anyway, yes, Cyber Dragons. This deck is so good. One of the main strengths of the deck, this format, is literally geared. Everything in this deck is geared towards going second. It can contact fuse away anything, which is amazing. OTK through almost any board. I mean, you can put so much damage on board with this Rampage Dragon. I mean, everything about this deck is awesome. It is slowly becoming one of my favorite going seconds, which is funny because I love going second with decks, but this, I've never really played much Cyber Dragons, but this deck, now that I've started to play, I've realized that this is definitely the deck that I need to be playing more often. But yeah, guys, I'm going to get straight into that profile. So we'll start off with our Cyber Dragon cards, and we play 3 Cyber Dragon. Of course, the MVP of the deck does all the jobs. All your cards are called this on field and in graveyard, which is amazing, and a lot of your fusions use Cyber Dragons, which is great. But then you also have that amazing effect that it contact fuses. The contact fusion effect is such a unique and strong effect. I mean, you can get rid of those 4 negate Appaloosas. If your opponent puts anything annoying on board, a lot of the times you just get to contact fuse it away. If you're against Orcust, it's game. They can't do anything against you because their whole board you get rid of instantly. Salamangrates is another really good example. You can get rid of their link on monster straight away, and so now their rage and their roar are turned off. I mean, this card is really good. And then on top of that, it's a non-hard once per turn special. Like it's just a summoning condition where you can just special it summon from the hand, and it has 2100 attack, so it beats over a lot of things as well. Even when you're locked out of extra deck, a lot of the times, like against those barrier stun decks, a lot of the times you can just bring this out and beat them with it, which is amazing. I mean, this card is so good for how unassuming it is. But yeah, moving on from that, we play the 3 Cyber Dragon VS. So when you special summon normal special summon a Cyber Dragon, which is pretty much everything you control, you get to special summon this from the hand, which is nice, and it also boosts the attack of your Cyber Dragons, but that's not really gonna matter. It doesn't stay on the field that long. We have the 3 Cyber Dragon Core, which is really good. This is your main starter. It lets you add a cyber spell or trap from your deck to your hand. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can banish from the graveyard to special summon a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. And then on top of that, its name becomes Cyber Dragon like all the other ones, which is great. This card is amazing, and you want to see it in every opening hand. We have Nashta, which was another piece of support. This is probably the newest card. I think this came out and like Battles of Legend or something, I don't know, like a year or 2 ago, so it's quite new. Very good card. You can discard 1 card from one other monster, special summon this from your hand, and then if it's normal special summon, you can target a machine with 2100 attack or defense in your graveyard and special summon it, and then it locks you into machines for the turn. So this card is amazing. It's your 1 card starter a lot of the time. I mean, this card, if you have a Cyber Dragon in your hand, this card gets you straight away into infinity without even using a normal summon, which is amazing when you think about it. You can get negate and just lock your opponent from like Nibiruing you or something, which is really nice. And then we have Hers as well. Hers is another really strong card. So its name becomes Cyber Dragon in the field or graveyard. If it's special summoned, you can make its level become 5, and then you're locked into machines. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 other Cyber Dragon from your deck or your graveyard to your hand. So it's the second effect that really matters, because you can only use 1 effect per turn. The first effect is good, but most of the time you're not going to need it that much. The second effect though makes it great for sending off with Rampage Dragon, great for sending off with Cyber Dragon Nashta. I mean, everything about it's just such a good card to have. Moving on into our Cyber Dragon spells, so we play 3 Cyber Emergency, one of the best search spells in the game. Adds a light machine that can't be normal summoned or set, or a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck to your hand. And then if the activation of this card is negated by your opponent's card effect, you can discard a card to add this back to your hand, which is great. So even if your opponent decides to hard negate this, you just get to use it straight again, which is wonderful. Moving on, I only play 1 Cyber Repair Plant. I don't even play the other Cyber one as well. There's another one that's like a Monster Reborn, I think Rev System. Cyber Repair Plant is not a bad card at all. I just don't think it's that necessary. Most of the time I'm trying to end the game in 1 or 2 turns, and I just felt like I'd rather have Reborn most of the time instead of Rev System, and Repair Plant is only useful in very specific circumstances, which is why I only play 1. Then Cyberload Fusion. This is an incredible fusion spell just because it synergizes so well with Overload Fusion. So it fusion summons a monster by shuffling materials from your field and face up banished cards. and then monsters you control can't attack except that fusion summon monster. So this is a really good card for recycling your resources, and it's a quick play, which is also very, very useful. But yeah, you're going to be using this card in almost every duel to game your opponent, and it means that your opponent can't just kind of grind you out of resources, because a lot of the time you use your Cyberload Fusion, you bring out your Rampage or your your Rampage or your Cyber Twin Dragon or something, and then now it's like your resources are back in your deck and you just carry on playing, which is wonderful. And then I play one Cybernetic Overflow. So Cybernetic Overflow, really, really good trap. Non-target indestruction by banishing several Cyber Dragons, and obviously that's going to fulfill the condition for Cyberload Fusion as well, which is wonderful. So Cybernetic Overflow, really, really good trap card. Some people do play it too, but especially in this variant, I'm going second. I'm looking to completely destroy my opponent's board, and so I only really want to have one space in my deck, just in case they survive. It means that I can lock them off until the next time I get to kind of punch straight through their defenses. But yeah, that's moving on from the Cyber Dragon cards in the main deck. And so the rest of the cards, I've got two Yugioh as a kaiju. He's just a nice one to have in the deck. He does a lot, will tribute over any kind of big threat. When Dragoon of the Red Eye comes out, I might take this up to 3 and maybe even add another kaiju, just because it will be nice to have. Another reason why I do like having Yugioh as opposed to the other kaiju, yes, it has high attack, but it is the only light machine kaiju, and because this deck will lock you into machines, I'd rather not have a brick with another kaiju. But when Dragoon comes out, I'll be willing to take that risk probably. But then moving on, we play 3 Ash Blossom, of course, because it just hits almost every deck. 3 Lightning Storm, because you want the very generic removal of Lightning Storm, either destroying back row or baiting a negate from cards on the front row, which is really good. And then 3 Imperm, because it deals with everything this format. It's just such a good hand trap, and you need to pick up your copies of Imperm. If you're a budget player, look, it's okay to be a budget player. I've been a budget player for 95% of the time I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! That's why I even do these profiles online. But if you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In real life, I'm telling you now, Imperm is definitely the card to pick up. If you're not going to pick up any other card, this is the one to splurge the money on, because it is so good and it will do a huge job. And I just don't see Konami banning it as well, unless they really power creep and they want to release that card instead. But yeah, moving on from that, we then have 2 Overload Fusion, very strong card, and it really does a lot for you in terms of bringing out those Rampage Dragons and setting up your Cyberload Fusion again. It's just a very good card. And what's really nice about Overload Fusion, obviously, is that because all the materials can come from the graveyard, it means that even when you're on the back foot and all your cards have been destroyed, this is rarely a dead card in your hand, as long as you can get some Cyber Dragons in the grave, which is great. And then we play 3 Machine Dupe. I mean, you have to play. I have a real love-hate relationship with this card now. Cyber Dragons is probably one of the best decks for it, just because you can use it with almost any of your Cyber Dragons. And then not only that, but the way Machine Dupe works, for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming most of you do, but the card you target has to have 500 less attack, but the cards from the deck don't. And because all of these are called Cyber Dragons, if you Machine Dupe any of these cards, you summon 2 Cyber Dragons from your deck instead, which is amazing. So that means Nashtar turns into 2 Cyber Dragons, your Core turns into Super Dragons, your Hers turns into 2 Cyber Dragons. That's what makes it so good for this deck. However, obviously it does appear as a brick sometimes. Sometimes I do hate having this card, but usually you're very happy. I mean, if you see Core Machine Dupe, it's game. It's very hard for your opponent to beat that, because they're not going to be able to negate both of those effects. But yeah, a really good card to have in this deck. And then the 3 Galaxy Soldier. Some people play it too, but in my opinion, I don't see a reason. If I have a good card, I want to see it in every hand, and so I'm going to play at 3 to maximize those chances, which is why I play Galaxy Soldier at 3, just because it's nice. I mean, you can send your Hers off it to get a search as well, which is pretty good. Put Cyber Dragons in grave, and then it will search another copy of itself so that you can link up into your Nova and then into your Infinity. But yeah, really good card to have in your deck as well. That's why I play Galaxy Soldier, at 3. Moving on into my extra deck, play the 1 Almirage. Almirage has a nice combo with Hers, where you can normal summon your Hers, send to grave of Almirage, then add any Cyber Dragon, which is probably going to be a Nashtar, summon that, link, blah blah. You can do a lot of plays with that. Moving on, we have our Nightmare Phoenix. So Nashtar is a 1-card Phoenix, obviously a 1.5 card Phoenix, which is great for destroying back row. So that's why I play the Nightmare Phoenix, just for getting rid of back row and kind of dealing with those kind of things. You have the Cyber Dragon Seeger, which is a really good card for Cyber Dragons, just allowing you to boost up attack, and this is usually how you're going to facilitate some really powerful OTKs with Rampage Dragon, because if you can get both Seeger and Rampage Dragon on the field, it's very difficult for your opponent to deal with. Now, I did originally play Verte Anaconda in this deck, but what I personally found is that 9 times out of 10 it was too difficult to get the Verte on field and not somehow come out into one of my Cyber Dragon restrictions from either Hers or Nashtar, which is why I took Verte out. Verte, however, is a good card for this deck, and for some of you, it might suit your playstyle more to play that. So definitely think about playing Verte Anaconda. I'm just going to put it up here in case you aren't aware of what that card is. But this card is not a bad card. The only disadvantage obviously is that it's not a machine, it's a plant. But yeah, moving on from that, play the 1 Unicorn again for dealing with problematic cards on the field, and the 1 Blackluster Soldier. So Blackluster Soldier is a really good card just because you can get into it really easily with your contact fusions and just prevent your opponent from kind of doing much. It's a really nice wall and boss monster to use in this deck, and has very unique removal, being able to banish a card in the field without targeting as well if it destroys a monster by battle, which is great. Then we have our 2 Cyber Dragon Novas for facilitating notification, just doing a lot in general. This card is amazing, and if your opponent does try and send it to the graveyard, well, it's just going to cheat out one of your fusions, which is great. And the Infinity, the amazing card, it's not too hard to put out 2 Infinities in 1 turn, which is good for this deck, and it just negates things, sucks cards up. Really good card, nothing more to say about that. We have our Rampage Dragon, which is our main OTK machine. This is 9 times out of 10 going to be the card you are summoning with your overloads or your cyberloads, but it's a really good card to summon, and it pops back row, which is great. So a lot of the times you're going to bring out this and then clear your opponent's back row, and then now they can't even stop you from hitting them like 6 times in the face. Well, not 6 times. You're only really ever going to have 2 Cyber Dragons that you use for this fusion. Occasionally you're lucky enough to have more, but yeah, you're only gonna hit them 3 times, but 3 times boosted up with Cyber Dragon Seagull, which is going to be 4,200 damage. I mean, 4,200 damage 3 times, that's a lot of damage for your opponent to deal with. Moving on, play the 1 Fortress Dragon, one of our contact fusion materials, and also it's quite easy to summon this deck anyway, so you can put it up to quite high attack values. We play 1 copy of Cyber Twin Dragon. This card is not amazing, but it's just a bit of a backup. One advantage of this over Rampage Dragon is it just has purely higher attack, and it naturally can attack 2 times a turn. It doesn't need to send cards from the deck to the graveyard. So this is a really good card to have in your deck as well. And then I play 2 Mega Fleet. You have a lot of Cyber Dragons, you're going to be recycling them a lot, so it's not hard to put Mega Fleet to contact fuse and Mega Fleet very often, which is why I play 2 of them and not just 1. Moving on to the extra, there's nothing really revolutionary about it. 3 Tactical Talents, a really good card for this deck. We play 3 Twin Twisters for dealing with back row. Dimensional Barrier is live against almost every single deck, which is why I really like playing this card, this format. 1 red Reboot because it will stun back row for your opponent and stop them from limiting your plays. And then we play a Solemn Package for going first. Those games where our opponents force us to go first, we can side out our going second cards and play the Solemn Package instead. But guys, that is my Cyber Dragon deck profile. This is a really good and straightforward going second deck, so I highly recommend trying it out. Let me know if you enjoyed this video in the comments. Let me know if you can guess what deck I'm trying out. That's the only hint. It has something to do with Cyber Dragons. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Peace.